Welcome back, everybody. This is Season 2, Episode 4. Today, we are going to be talking about Recipe for Success. This is going to be a two-part series. Next time, we're going to be talking about Recipe for, disaster.
That's right.
But we're going to keep it positive today. Recipe for Success. We're going to be talking about everything that we do here at Elm Builders to make sure our projects are a success. We come out on schedule, on budget, and we make great products, great climate-controlled self-storage. So this is the recipe for success. Cameron, do you want to start us off?
I love that. So I would say it all starts with the core team, right? Like the people here at Elm Builders, I think that's where we start off here. Like that was what drives the success here, just the amount of energy and dedication that each team player has and brings to the table. We have countless of meetings, right? Just countless level 10 meetings, just bringing everyone in. Even when they're not even on the project, they're still helping us make decisions because everyone is valued here. And that's what I really love about working with Elm, is that there is nothing that is undervalued here. We always look at someone with value, and they bring stuff to the table.
Absolutely. And what we do with our meetings is we will make a meeting, and if it's not working, if it's not producing the activity that we want, we take that meeting off our schedule, right? And meetings come on our schedule for maybe 3 months at a time, and then they fall off. Once we feel like we've gotten the value, we don't just load our calendar up with meetings because it's so easy to do that. Every time someone suggests, hey, should we have another meeting? We talk and be like, what can we do to avoid that? Like just last week, we were saying, hey, look, we have all these objectives for our project. You know, should we have a meeting about it? And we really came to learn that like the main thing that we were talking about was schedule. And we didn't have a bulletproof schedule. So it's like, instead of making a meeting about our schedule, like, why don't we actually make a schedule, issue this to our subcontractors, and make sure that they're all on the same page? If somebody's not on the same page, if the material hasn't been ordered and we need to order it, and there's all these roadblocks, then we can make a meeting about how to overcome that. But we don't just add meetings willy-nilly because we already have a significant amount of meetings.
The plate is full.
Yes.
I will tell you that. One big meeting I'm just going to say is the Elm Level 10, right? That came out, rolled about 5-6 months ago. I think we started the Elm Level 10. Came from a great book called Traction, I believe. And that is, we got the core group of team coming together. It discusses, your wins. We kind of go over as a team, like, hey, because we want to start off on a high note.
Yes.
We want to bring the vibes up in the room. So,
it's
hey,
important.
We also have to celebrate wins. We're humans. We want to, cheer each other on. So it's like, hey, what did you do this week that was so successful? And it could be project related, it could be personal.
Exactly.
It's just like we're a team here. We want to get to know each other and make sure we have high spirits. Then we dive into it's not IDS first. It's what is the next one? Oh, to-dos. Is it to-dos?
The rocks.
The rocks. That's right. The rocks. Let's talk about those rocks.
So let me just preface this by saying I'm on the Nomads core team, and they're level 10, and the Elms as well. So Nomad's been doing this for about 3 years now through EOS and Traction. So it's a tool that Nomad Capital uses that we looked at it and we said, hey, like this is extremely productive and important.
Got some value.
It's got some real value. So that's why we implemented it into the Elm Builders side. So wins, we start with the wins. Then we go over our rocks. Every quarter we set our rocks. So our rocks are important things that will move the company forward. Things that you wouldn't do every day, like call the dumpster guy, have him bring a dumpster. That's not a rock, right? A rock would be like make 3 new connections with architects or engineers to help us do civil drawings. Like that's a real rock where it's like, okay, this would take time and attention to go cultivate these relationships, do all these things. And the idea is that a rock, if you had a jar and you filled it with sand and pebbles, you'd never be able to fit your rocks in. So that's why the rocks go first. These are these massive things that will move the company forward. And after 4 quarters of you knocking out 3 or 4 rocks, if everybody on the team has 3 or 4 rocks every quarter, then by the end, if you knocked out 9 to 12 rocks, like that's huge. And like everybody has an individual piece to this puzzle where we're all coming together and advancing the company. So, so wins for the week, rocks, then comes the to-dos. Do you want to explain the to-dos?
The to-dos is usually a list that we have created for ourselves. It's just items that need to get done for that week or within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is kind of a smaller, so this is per se like your pebbles. You have your rocks and you have your pebbles. So these are items that are for the company, but they're maybe going to advance just a specific project just a little bit further.
Yeah.
They're more, they're not as heavy as a rock of a lift, but they're still just things that are going to take time and detail to kind of orchestrate, maybe completing a whole checklist or a spreadsheet, getting things together that's going to take, 2 to 3 hours of your day, but, for 5 days, and then you usually create that. And then we have our sand, which is, well, not really our sand, but which is our day-to-day.
Yeah. So, just to advance on that a little bit, like these to-dos are things that like a lot of time has coordination between a couple team members and things that we just can't let slip.
Yeah.
And this is all tracked on a CRM. It's called ClickUp. It's very similar to Monday.com. But ClickUp, we like ClickUp a little bit better. But so that way it has assignees, it's got due dates, and it's not like an email where it kind of gets lost.
Yeah.
You keep getting reminders, and it's just a good way to also comment in there about like, hey, Cameron called the civil engineer, but John now needs to go show the civil engineer where we're digging, like that kind of stuff. So it's like it's really nice to format it that way. And we implemented ClickUp 8 months ago, and it's been huge for us and helping us keep structured and following up on stuff.
Yeah.
So we got the big wins, we got the rocks, we got the to-dos. Then comes
it's a sprint to IDS.
To IDS.
IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. If I'm stuck on a particular situation with a project, I need help. I'm not just going to stand there stranded and just keep this to myself. Like, I'm going to call on my teammates and say, hey, this is what I have going on in this project. I need solutions. This is kind of like a brainstorm session. We're all coming together and going, okay, let's look at it. Because I'm going to look at it just from my lens, my PM lens, where, Ryan's going to look at it from a different elevation, and Kyle's going to look at it from this elevation, and John is going to look at it from this. Everyone's looking at it from a different angle. And that kind of helps me take my blinders off and go, okay, I like these different perspectives of what's going on here to how to pretty much solve this problem. And I think we do a great job of that. And once again, we are tracking everything on that ClickUp. Like, okay, this is what we need to do next. These are the steps that, we talked about this. This is what we're going to do. This is who we're going to contact. And, we feel good about the solution. Yeah. We kind of all come to an agreement and, we move on. And usually a to-do comes out of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So IDS, you mentioned identify, discuss, but the most important thing is solving, right?
Yeah,
we want to walk away with an actual either to-do or solving the issue, putting it to bed.
Yep.
And again, as you mentioned, when someone's in the weeds and they bring the issue up, it's nice to have someone else take a look at it. And then not only that, like we all have different backgrounds in construction.
Mm-hmm.
You come from track home building. I come from large commercial. John comes from commercial upfits, disaster relief. And Dave comes from storage installing. So it's like we have so many different views and experiences that it's only reasonable to think that if we all come together, and we usually do come up with a hybrid idea where it's like we took this piece from that person, that piece from that person, wrap it all together, make a system out of it, and go trial and test it. And that, I think, is a huge part of it.
Yeah. It's a great way to share a win as a team.
Yeah.
It's not just an individual win. It's, a team coming together to create wins.
Yeah. And another good thing about IDS, it's not just like we don't just pull open the IDS and be like, all right, what do we talk about today? It's like whenever someone's struggling with something throughout the week, we have these meetings weekly. Every Wednesday we have this meeting. If on Monday you're struggling with something that's not an immediate fire, like you add it to this IDS list, and then we have designated time to really sit and brainstorm this stuff. If I had a meeting in 4 minutes and Cameron came to me with an issue, well, I can only give him 3.5 minutes of my time. Whereas like we have the whole team dedicated to this time slot to discuss this stuff and to solve it. So I think that's huge. Putting your IDS in there and then really designating time to solve these issues really helps move us forward.
Yeah, so many great things have come out of our IDS. It's just a lot of great things that we have started to implement and that have shown success that have really taken off. So IDS, I can only recommend it for everyone's company, just because it is such a powerful tool and to actually implement this stuff and see it work. I mean, and if it doesn't work, hey, it goes back on the IDS.
Yeah.
And we talk about, hey, this is what didn't work in this situation. How can we change it? How can we evolve it to make it work for what we have going on?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. Again, that book was called Traction. If anybody wants to look it up. And the last portion of it, rate the meeting. That's my favorite. Today is actually Wednesday. I'm not sure what day everybody will be watching this, but we had one of our highest rating level 10 meetings today.
Yeah.
We had all high 9s, and we even got a 10, which I don't think I've ever seen somebody give out a 10, but I think it was genuine. I think it was earned, and it was just a great day, great momentum, and all that stuff. So I enjoy rate the meetings. It is kind of harsh when sometimes meetings get like the low 7s. It's like, wow. But then it's like, yeah, what did we do? Like, we were 2 minutes late. Like, I get it. Yeah. Like that's, if you're late and that affects the score.
I would say it has to do with the success of IDS. Like when there's just so much brainstorming and we're clicking, and it like everyone's voice is feeling heard, and we're kind of just like on this groove. Like, okay, now we have synced. Like all these rivers are coming together and creating this big ocean of ideas, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is like everyone gets amped. We're like, oh man, we're feeling it.
Yeah,
we're feeling this creation. So it's always cool, and that's how I think the bigger ratings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I gave it a 9.8 today.
Yeah. Yeah,
we were 5 minutes over. So
yeah. One other thing that we didn't touch on is we just started doing our quarterly books.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So that also lives in that same click up with our level 10 meetings where we pick a book for a quarter and we all read it together as a team. Nomad just finished Extreme Ownership, so now for Elm Builders, the book is Extreme Ownership. I think a lot of people have been talking about the value they've gotten out of it. Cameron, do you want to mention anything?
Yeah,
You're halfway through already. That was fast. You're already halfway through the book. So
it was funny that Ryan brings that up. He literally read the same passage I read the night before, and I was like, dang, like it just talks about like owning the situation that you're in and owning your seat and not letting excuses get in the way. And it's from some special forces operators, so it like has a little bit of military background in it, so it appeals to me even more. But there's just at Elm, we look at each other as humans, and we are full of faults, but yet we are always willing to advance ourselves and learn and adapt and grow. So having these books, it gives us an opportunity to take a step back and look at our leadership style and what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and of course having these these Navy SEALs really put things into perspective of how they look at it and how they operate. It's just been a great read so far, and I really love it. And it talks about difficult situations and how they can apply not only on the battlefield, but how they applied it into business and to their CEO roles or whatever it may be. So it's just a great opportunity as a leader to work on yourself, because there's nothing worse than like being a poor leader and having bad communication and wondering why things aren't getting done. So for me, it's just a great opportunity like to step back and like, why didn't this get done? Oh, it's because of me. Like, I'm going to own this because I didn't communicate well enough to John or Dave that I wanted this done, and this is how I want to get it done. So it's been just a phenomenal read. I really enjoyed it so far, as you can tell. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, what are some of the highlights that you're getting out? I mean, besides what we talked about, with the whole drilling thing.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot. I guess one that I haven't mentioned yet is like the ability to control external factors.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's so many things that you can make an excuse out of something that's an external factor and say, "Hey, Billy didn't show up on the job site and that's why we're delayed." Like that's easy to say, right? Yeah. That's easy to point at that and say that was the root cause. But like you were just mentioning, it's like, well, did we build a schedule that was accurate, and did we send it to Billy, and did we tell Billy that there's no other option for him other than to come on Tuesday at 3 p.m. because we just cut the roof open and he's got to put his plumbing pipe through? Like did we all do all those things, or did somebody just text Billy and say, "Hey, we'd love to see you on the job site this week"?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like it really
true.
A lot of times it does boil down to that, where it's like, okay, that was our mistake.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we told him to be on the job site, but we didn't tell him what day, we didn't tell him what time, we didn't tell him how important it was because we have the roof open and we have to, close it by the end of the day. It's like when you think about that stuff, and that's an easy one, but there's ones that are harder that still the book is like, hey, if you have a rock solid plan, sometimes when you get this new intel, you don't change your plan because you spent that much time planning that you've accounted for all the external factors. And when you got that information, you said, good, I already planned for that
Yep.
contingency. So once you get to a place where you are in control of everything, you're running basically like completely efficient and owning everything that happens. And that's what I love about it. It's like when you feel totally in control, because you've stress tested your plan to that extreme.
Yeah, and I will say what has come out of that, especially is this new phrase that we're coining around the office here is how TM and why TM. Those are trademarked by Ryan because he had that brainstorm at 4:00 in the morning and decided to text everyone, "Hey, this is what we're doing." But it's
That
a
is
great
true.
opportunity to be at a project. Maybe you're in the middle of it, maybe you're at the beginning of it, but you have to envision yourself at the end and say, how did we get here? How did we miss the mark on the budget? How did we miss our timeline? What can we think of right now in the moment that we're in that somehow caused this chaos that we missed something, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty cool exercise. So we go, all right, how did we get here, right? And then the next is why we're not going to let ourselves get there. And I've seen this work on one of our projects, and it has just been, I mean, we just did it today as well.
Yeah, we did.
It's just one of
Second
those
time.
exercises that, okay, we know we may run into, especially on conversions. I mean, there's so many external factors that are going on, like how did this happen?
Yeah.
So once we get there, we're like, all right, now why are we not going to let that happen? What are the things that we can do right now in the moment to make sure that does not come to fruition?
Exactly.
And it is very powerful.
For every how, like how did we fail the mission? We'll number that one number 1, and then the why will have like 1A, like like we allowed too many changes on the job site. Like our how would be like how we allowed too many changes on the job site, and we let the tile selection go too long. Then 1A would be like, well, we need to then why we didn't let that happen. We need to communicate to the client that they needed to pick the tile by December 31st, right? Like we needed to follow up with the client on December 25th and remind them about the tile selection on December 31st. Like all these things, and like build out, like we need to do structured emails every week. Like there's always ways that we could avoid those those hows by doing clear and great, and have a great communication on the whys.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this is about communication, and that plays a big factor in the film. But I just want to say another part of the book that I like is when there's one chapter and there's just like complete chaos. They ran after a bad guy and they're in the middle of nowhere. It's at the very beginning, but it's a complete chaos. It's like, what is the biggest issue right now? Let me solve that. Like, what is the biggest pain point? Like, hey, we got to get this roof dried in. All right, let's focus on that first. Let's put a lot of energy into that. We have 9 other things that we need to do, but this is our number 1 priority. Let's get this knocked out and put everyone's energy into this. So I like that aspect. Is like on these huge conversions, it's just like there's so many things going on. But what is the biggest pain point right now? What is big picture objective? What is the pain point that needs dealing? So many Ryan phrases right now. But it's like, what can we take care of at the moment to solve this issue? And hey, get it off our plate forever. Just get it off.
Yeah. So in the book, it's called Prioritize and Execute.
Yep.
And what Cameron was talking about is our other, we got the how TM and why TM. That's one silo. The next is BPOs and PPNDs.
Oh,
so your BPO is your big picture objective, right? Drying the roof. Make sure the roof is sealed. That would be a big picture objective. And then you have associated with that also are your PPNDs, your pain points that need dealing, right? We have, when you're doing a roof, it's not like just lay the roof. Yeah. Like there are so many flashings, holes through the roof for plumbing vents, holes through the roof for your AC condensate lines, your condenser lines, your electrical conduit, things that are possibly demoed like satellite penetrations that are no longer needed. Like there's so many unknowns and like where everything's going to fit and all that stuff. We have so many pain points that need dealing that if we have a big picture objective, we need to itemize all the pain points that we need to accomplish to get the big picture objective. Because it's so easy to be like, "Hey, Cameron, like, are you gonna get the roof dried in? Like, that's the objective." It's like, well, I think it's like no. It's like what does it actually take to make that happen? Let's list it out, and it's not all going to be the roofer, right? Like the roofer doesn't know where the plumbing pipes are coming through. He doesn't know when, the plumber is going to actually put the pipe through. He doesn't know when the HVAC guy is going to cut the roof for his fresh air intakes, for his condensate lines, for all this stuff. So it's like every objective has multiple things that we need to accomplish to close that out for good.
Yeah, and communicate to everyone. Like everyone's got to get on the same page. So now this is like we have a little whiteboard. We talk about it, and once again we have a weekly meeting about this one project, but yet it's out there black and white for everyone to read. Like, hey, if you're lost, you go to the whiteboard. These are our objectives. Like, go to the subcategory and figure out who you need to talk to get this done.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just a great way to keep track of the project, and everyone is on the same page. And it's a place to go to if you're lost.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you've done this. All right, what's on the board? Let's go down the line. Let's knock it out.
Or even like if someone else comes up and says, hey, I need the toilets. And it's like, well, that's not a big picture objective. Like prioritize and execute. Like someone's like, hey, I want the toilet over here. I understand that that's something that like needs to happen, but honestly, that's not a big picture objective. It's not a PPND. It's not a priority right now.
Yeah.
Like there's so many other things to deal with, like moving toilets around. That's not it.
No. And it's a good spot. Like if someone, wants to take leave for a week or two, someone can fill in. Hey, they have a whiteboard. They have, hey, this is the notes. This is all you got to do is follow this.
Yeah.
And this will it's
just make this happen, and we're
good. We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Even though you may just stepped in, now we're all on the same page. Even though you're, love it. Love it.
Yeah. So that's our level 10. That's also how we run our job sites. What else is there for Elm Builders that makes us tick?
I would say our core values, really. The Hemingways have graciously come up with this core values for Nomad, and we have adopted it with Elm Builders just because we're all under the same umbrella. And it's, it's just something that we try to live by here at Elm and Nomad and City Storage. And, we just try to live these core values because, it's who we are as a brand and as a company.
Yeah.
So I think it's just very impactful. And those are whatever it takes.
Yep.
Grace.
Yep.
Integrity.
That's correct.
Honesty.
And excellence.
Excellence. Yeah, I knew them. Oh, it just takes me a second.
My favorite ones are, I love them all. But
tell me your favorite.
My favorite two are
Two?
whatever. Yeah, I have two. Whatever it takes.
Dang, that's mine too. That's one of mine.
And grace. When you mix those two together, like nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to do whatever it takes to get the job done. But we know that if somebody is owning something and doing whatever it takes to get the job done, they're going to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. Like it's just construction. It's inevitable. The main thing is that we need to give the person, whoever decided to take that on, grace to fumble through it and get through it, and obviously ask us for our support and our advice and guidance and all that kind of stuff. But we need grace because we have so many things we're doing right now. We can't, like the expert at something can't take on everything, right? So it's got to be a delegate and kind of and accomplish that way. But also the person doing the task, and when they mess up, they need grace upon themselves as well, because you can't get too down, right? It's like for every hurdle, it's all figure outable. You just got to be like, all right, well, I shouldn't have installed the roof right here, but we'll peel it back and we'll reflash it, and it's like, well, yeah, like just act, get it done, and do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Yeah, and I think another great one is integrity. Just the fact that, everyone is owning the hat that they're in, but everyone is also willing to, at some point, just own up to like, hey, I made a mistake here. Like, I'm owning this. I'm going to bring this to, to light, and that way we can get it fixed out as a team instead of trying to hide it and just keep it, kicking that can down the road. It's like, all right, I messed up there at some point, I'm going to own this. So it's so nice to see that, that we're also humble about it, but, and then everyone's just giving grace to that situation. Like, we've all been there, right? Like, it happened to me yesterday. I emailed Ryan. I don't even know what time it was, but I thought I had this great idea. I was like, oh, man, we're losing track of our budget here. We're losing. Ryan's like, oh, no. Take a step back. All right, just take a step back. Give yourself some grace, and just look at it from this angle. I was like, dang, okay. Okay. I had to make a couple apologies because I was too in it. But, it just takes a second, and I'm glad I had a great team to just pull me out of it and like, hey, look at it this way.
I've been there many times.
I was like, and that was nice. You know, you
Yeah.
brought your own personal situation. Like, hey, I've been there. You know, it's going to happen sometimes, but you know, without you going through the fire first, you know, how would I know?
Exactly.
And that was the great part about it. It's like, hey, I've been there. We'll get through it together, and we'll just keep pushing on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's always great when you know, the people around you are struggling with stuff that you've personally struggled with before, because then it's so much easier to help. And you know, I was very grateful that I had been in that stressful situation and deep in those budgets, and I've made a very similar mistake. So yeah, that's an easy one to kind of you know, just gloss over, but there are so many more that it's just like, I've seen people make mistakes that I'm like, damn, I would have made the same exact call at the same exact time.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
And it's like, you know, head up, like, let's just keep going, dude. Like, we have to. We have no other like, what's your other choice? You just muddle around in your sadness and like just let yourself get that much further behind. I mean, in the instant that you can decide to be sad, you could also decide to fix the solution. And by the time you've done that, you're 8 steps ahead of where you would be if you're just wallowing. So I think that's a new mindset that I think we've adapted the last like 4 months, where it's like, hey, everybody heads up. Like, we are doing so many things, and these are such hard things that we have to have a positive mindset.
Yeah. And another thing that came out of that whole situation, and you said it today, you're like, now you understand it more, though. I was like, you're right. I went through it. I made the mistake, but now I understand it even more. I grasped it more. I was like, dang, okay, not going to make the same mistake.
Yeah.
And now I'm deeper into it.
The next time you open that spreadsheet up, you're going to actually understand the ins and outs. Yeah. And it's just that much more clear. So yeah, with every stumble is just another opportunity to gain clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do that quite well.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So we have our Elm level 10, we have our job site meetings, and then we have a meeting where, you know, we process, how many invoices do we process per week?
Gosh, per week?
Per week.
Jeez.
I don't think people probably understand how many invoices come in.
I mean, I would say if we're throwing the fishing net out there, say, hey, we got a bank draw coming up, guys. We need invoices to come in. I would definitely say north of 100.
Yeah.
You know, definitely a week, you know. I mean, especially just the amount of projects that we have going on. I would say definitely north of 100, easily.
Yeah.
And that is not just a one-man show or one-woman show. It's just like, it's not just on that one person. Like, we have multiple checks in that whole scenario where it comes to the project manager first. Project manager has a weekly meeting with the site supers, like, hey, I'm getting invoiced for this amount, where the percentages are at. So there's double checks there, and then it goes over to accounting. Accounting puts in the information.
Yep.
And then we have another triple check.
We do have a triple check, and that's the meeting I was going to get to. Yeah, our finance meeting. Yeah. So this has kind of developed into, before it was very casual, and now it's very structured, and we just actually came up with another way to make it more fine-tuned. But yeah, our finance meeting, we pull open, we have 3 laptops open. We pull open all of our accounts payable, all the invoices that we have to pay. Yeah. We scour through those, and you know, we also need to make sure that all of our subcontractors have up-to-date insurance. Yep. Workers' comp, general liability, it's got to be project-specific. Yep. So we rolled out a insurance software called Thimble. Not sure if you guys have heard of it, but if you're dealing with something we're dealing with, we highly recommend Thimble. It's free, and it sends your subcontractors notifications, and they can upload their COIs. Yeah. So it's great. So one person is looking at all of the invoices that we have to pay. Next person is looking at insurance. The other person also has open all the invoices we have to pay, but this third person can actually click into it, because once you click into it, you lose all the saved data. Yeah. So we have one up on the TV, and then the other person will be clicking in and saying, all right, this is for Johnny's Plumbing. You know, they've invoiced to 75%. And then we talk about if they're actually at 75%, do they have any change orders coming? We're checking insurance over there. We're now checking liens, see if they have any liens against the property or the right to lien. We'll probably do a whole episode on the right to lien and liens, and all of that good stuff. There's a lot there. And we're checking progress, insurance, you know, how much they have left on the job. all that kind of stuff. What else do we check?
I mean, that's a good question. I was just trying to think about it in my head. What else do we check? Yeah, no, I think that's. I mean, it's
Yeah,
really,
we have our top priorities, right? We have
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah,
have a
like
top priority list where
our sweet. Yeah.
yeah, it's called our squeaky wheel list. Like, for example, if a subcontractor has got their insurance in and their deposit invoice in, and they need this deposit money to buy the materials to bring, let's say, a staircase, right? If they need to fabricate the staircase, we have to pay for that. So, yeah, we need the deposit sent so that they can hit the schedule. So we do have a priority list. It's called our squeaky wheel list that we reference as well to
Yeah.
make sure all the people that need the money the fastest are going to get it.
Yeah, and I will say these checks are very handy. I mean, it has saved us so many numerous of times just because one in particular, of a project I'm thinking, I'm sure will come to light, is that we had invoice for material, but yet we had no material on site. Like, we do like advance invoices just so we can get them in our bank draw, but it's like, okay, we're not going to actually pay this until material's on site. And
Yeah.
actually, we ended up parting ways with that vendor
Yes.
later down the road. But I mean, it was one thing that we could have gave them a boatload of money for material that and they didn't even complete the job. So
Yeah, so that's just to expand on that. That's a great example, right? Like, so if there was some people that had a construction company and they just had their accountant doing this stuff, and the accountant said, "Hey, this is due today. I'm going to pay this."
yeah,
Well, they would pay that, and then the subcontractor would have the money, no materials on the site, and then it'd be 2 months later, and they'd be like, "Hey, we never got the materials on site. Good thing we didn't pay them." No, we did because it was due. And then it's like, well, why would you pay them? Well,
Yeah.
you didn't communicate that it should not have been paid. So that's another check. It's just like, it's more of a gut check, but it's like, hey, do we feel good? Did they send us pictures of the material? Like all that kind of stuff. It's like, and you're exactly right. Like that was a perfect example of why we all need to be involved in some of these things because that saves us a lot of work on the back end.
yeah. And I mean, it was a simple conversation with the vendor, like, "Hey, we got your invoice,
Yeah.
but you have no material. Are you good with us holding off until materials on site?" They're like, "Yeah, that makes sense to us." And I was like, okay, so yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
What else? I mean,
So
I would say another meeting. I mean, this is, I guess, a little humble brag, but obviously PM meetings with the site supers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another meeting I have weekly from all the projects. So once a week I check in, and really that is a project status check-in. So the supervisors are going to bring, or the superintendents, they're going to bring the schedule to us. They have updated. They know, and they're the ones communicating with the vendors most likely. They're going to know that Johnny's going to come up on Wednesday, so I just want to make sure that's going to be on the schedule. I want to make sure everything's tracking on the schedule. Okay, we have an idea of when we want a CO. All right, so where are these other little small pieces going to fit in on the schedule? They're going to annotate that. I'm bringing the budget to them. I'm saying, hey, this is where we're at on the budget. These are our variances. And then we're going to start talking about, okay, what are some of the pain points that we're dealing with? Okay, we need to reach out to Duke about getting a transformer removed or a work order that we have out there. So we annotate, and once again, this is all on ClickUp. So if I ever go on leave, hey, someone can hop in.
I know exactly where it is.
These are all numbered. Like, hey, he had this on Tuesday. This is what the Tuesday meeting notes is, and like we just move forward. And it's a great meeting. Just check the temperature of the water. Say, hey, this is what's going on in that project, and that helps with that. The next meeting, the level 10, hey, did anything come out of that site super meeting that needs to be IDS? Okay, this came out of it. Or did is this invoice good to pay? No, because I talked to the site super. They said, no, they're not done yet. Yeah. So it's just a great meeting that we have just to check on the pulse, make sure we're all firing on the same cylinders and where we're going and we're pushing it in the right direction.
That's right. And another one came to my mind, the Monday meeting with the architect and engineering. Yeah.
It's so funny. When I first got here, I had no idea why you did that, but now I understand.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah, sometimes it's pretty calm, right? Like we have like one project, maybe we need to update the sump pump or something like that. That's an easy email. But when we have like one project finishing, one project starting, one project in the middle, there's so many things that we need from the architect in different kind of capacities that the best thing to do is have a standing meeting.
Yep.
Sometimes the meeting is 10 minutes.
Yep.
Sometimes the meeting is an hour and 10 minutes. Like it just all depends on what the needs are at that time. But it's so easy when you have 3 different projects to send emails and it all to get lost. And again, not communicating, not prioritizing. The architect's just going to do whatever email he got first.
Yep.
But sometimes updating the sump pump drawings doesn't need to be done for 2 months because we're not going to have a plumbing inspection for 2 months anyway. And, really what we need is the staircase on our other project because that inspection is in a week. So, that's been a great meeting where we talk about, all the pitfalls, all the design changes, something we need for egress, anything happening in the inspection that needs to be updated, and prioritizing. I think that meeting has been very helpful. We rolled that out about 8 months ago once we started picking up volume, and that's been really helpful.
And it's not just a one-sided meeting. It's not like, hey, we need you to get this plan up. It's like, okay, in order for me to get this plan updated, I need this X, Y, and Z, or I need you to contact this. Because, we're really the belly button for, the AHJ, because we're communicating with the permitting side, like, hey, what do you want to see? And then we kind of relaying that back to the architect. So it's like we also give ourselves tasks to do to make sure this is running smoothly, checking in things and what we want to see, really. Yeah. So we also talk to the customer.
Yeah, exactly, because they're right next door. Yeah, sometimes to meet code, you could do something that isn't as aesthetically pleasing, right? Yeah. And it's just like, or do we want to bring it to the next level and really spend the money because this might be a feature of the project? It's like, then we connect with Nomad Capital City Storage, we weigh the options, and then we move on. And it's like the architect definitely gives us some items to review with the team and make sure that everybody's on the same page, which I think is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so those are a lot of the ingredients to our recipe for success.
Yeah, I would say so. It's delicious eats.
Yes, indeed it is. Is there anything else in the recipe? Is there anything else that like an outsider looking in? When we look back at the amount of construction, the gross revenue of Elm Builders and all that kind of stuff, we're looking at $7 to $10 million worth of projects. There's only 6 people on our team.
Yeah.
Like what does the recipe look like to pull off that much volume of construction and only have 6 full-time employees?
Well, we have 2 offsite supers, so they're out in the field, so they don't get to come into the office. There's Ryan and I and Kyle, we get a chance to talk to each other and see each other each and every day. So we also do a quarterly meeting where we bring everyone in-house. Everyone's going to be at the same table, and then we talk about, hey, this is the projection of what we got going on next quarter. So everyone's on the same page. Once again, we go through the rocks. We go through our highs and lows, the IDS, to-do list. We create stuff so everyone is part of the team, but also has the opportunity to, put their ideas out there. And just make sure that, hey, this is our goal for Elm right here, this next quarter. These are the rocks that we want to get completed. And this is a great opportunity to just build a team that really, is owning it, is taking on a lot of responsibility and, really meshing well together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great opportunity to mesh well. It's like you got to have that face-to-face time.
Yeah.
The phone call just doesn't do it.
It doesn't do it. Yeah, I'd say part of the recipe is camaraderie, team building, and the only way we can really do that is to get together face to face. I think since we've started rolling out our quarterly and annual meetings, I think that's definitely improved a lot. Like, Kyle, Cameron, and I, we're touching a bunch of different projects here and there. That's the 3 of us, and then we have, 3 total site supers, one for a local project, and John Serva and David Magnuson. They're stationed at our 2 offsite projects, and they focus on those projects and their input and their knowledge. Like the day to day is so crucial to what we do. That a phone call here and there just doesn't do it. Yeah. And they're also, watching what we do on the office side and say, hey, can you make this more efficient?
Absolutely.
So it's not like we're just asking them to do stuff. Like they are doing a ton of work and then also giving us feedback. Like the feedback goes all the way around. Like our quarterly, there was some great input from them that frankly, I would never have thought of. Like the things they were saying was like, wow, that's a game changer. Like we need to think about that and explore these options. So, that's definitely part of the recipe. Camaraderie and always looking for feedback and intel from everybody on your team.
Yeah, I mean, we see how the systems work, in the office, but do they correlate that way in the field?
Yeah.
And they let us know, like, hey, this is not working for me. I need a laptop. I need something where I can open up the app a little bit better and streamline it this way. So it's just great to bring them in-house and, have that one-day meeting where we get together and we brainstorm ideas and we talk about what can we do as a company to always be that, that next step ahead of what do we need to do to look into the future. That how did we get here? Why did we get there? Because we met every quarter and we did this together as a team and we grew together as a team.
Yeah, we established rocks, we crushed them. Yeah, and we grew.
That's it.
That's a pretty good recipe. Would you say so yourself?
I would say so. What? I am looking forward to the recipe for disaster. Yeah, for disaster.
Unfortunately, we do know quite a bit about a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, we're not perfect. So we do have things for success, but also we have learned some hard lessons along the way.
Yeah, I will say I could already preface this. A lot of it's going to be a lack of communication on the recipe for disaster. And I mean, there's other stuff too. But
yeah, that's true.
If you were to break it down and take a step back, communication is going to be something that is crucial to avoid a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for tuning in and joining us for the Recipe for Success. If you have any questions about traction, EOS, thimble insurance tracking, or anything else we dove into, please feel free to go to our website at elmbuilders.com, and our contact info is on there, and you can reach out to us directly on LinkedIn or whatever you would like. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Ryan Bono. This is Cameron Pleasant. We'll see you next time for
Thanks, guys.
the Recipe for Disaster.